but it's not going to be cheaper than what you can pull off, that what we've had at our fingertips, what we call conforming to top credit, top people, 30-year fixed, really the best financing you can get.
Yes.
And for the cheapest money and for what you have to do, whatever programs you have to get are linked to one of those purchase programs. It's just they're going to cover a certain down payment or closing cost for conventional or FHA. If it's not that, you're getting into something deeper that's probably going to waste your time, and it's going to require more than the minimum down payment.
Yeah, but you're not going to know until you reach out to a professional like Robert.
Yeah, it's going to put you more in debt if it's on. I know there's other stuff coming out, but there's a catch. It's a silent second. It's a silent lien. But there is a lot of this. There's a lot of advertisements going on out there. If it's a really low rate, then there are fixed rates that start off low the first year, the second year, the third year, and end up a fixed rate for the remaining term. But the sellers have to cover a lot of that. When you negotiate, the seller has to help pay for that. The seller helps buy down.
Well, it depends, right? Where the market's at
And it's
point.
a temporary buy down, and you end up with a fixed rate higher than what you can technically get fixed to start with.
So you got to really think about it, guys. Determining whether you want to be a renter all your life or actually own a property.
Correct. And with everybody having good rates, I really believe second mortgages are going to make a comeback, because that's where I started my career. When you can consolidate revolving compounding interest and car payments into one simple interest, possible tax write-offs, and you can save 500, 1,000, I think that's going to be huge for homeowners in the future.
I agree, because it's all about being able to qualify for that loan. And if you don't have any programs out there to help out people that are a little bit less with the credits or not making as much, you're going to have some programs out there that's going to help people. Right?
And you have to crawl before you walk. You have to walk before you run. You have to train before you can compete. So when you're a first-time home buyer, you're not going to get this, and you got to start with the house to live in. And you do that.
The first house.
You do that when you can pull it off. You don't plan for the future.
When it makes sense financially.
Yes, if you have decent credit, 580 and up, really.
Wow. Okay.
Honestly, that's minimum down, 580 and up. You get the FHA minimum down, and the best FHA pretty much has to offer. And you've been working 2 years. Now, it doesn't even have to be the same job. You've just been working 2 years. You're consistent, and you have income. And then, then number 3, down payment and closing costs. Well, with all these programs out there, there's ways to cover it, and there's ways to negotiate when you're hunting.
Now, for people that have their own business, what does the bank usually look for when you're self-employed and have your own business?
So going to how much income can we prove? It's really good to talk to a professional, because when you work for somebody or you get a W-2, we're looking at the gross before taxes. When you're self-employed, it comes down to a 2-year average. If you've been self-employed a long time, you could get away with a 1-year average with 1-year tax returns. But you have to be self-employed for a certain amount of time before that will be required.
Okay.
But they're usually going to 9 times out of 10 average your 2 years net.
Net. Okay, so when you're self-employed, the bank looks at the income that you make every single year.
After
right?
you write out, you have your gross receipts at the top of your
Yes.
Schedule C, and then you have all your deductions.
After your deduction.
Depreciation is an important one. Use depreciation.
Yes.
And then you have your net income. And that net income is what they're using, not the gross.
Perfect. That's a huge difference.
That's a huge difference.
Yes.
And the advantage of self-employed is you have a lot of write-offs.
Yep. And then you pay less taxes, but when it comes to getting approved, you have to be very careful on how much you deduct.
And that leads into these, you hear bank statements, alternative loans that allow you to use alternative income documentation versus the traditional. Yeah, but guess what? Those rates are going to be, they're actually very competitive compared to the fixed rates, but they're going to require 10% or more down depending on that credit score. You're not going to find 5% or less. So know that you get into these alternative programs, it's not cheaper.
Yeah, so you see how all this is crucial in qualifying for a loan, guys.
Yeah, they
All
make
of
it sound so good with advertisements, and it's
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, there's a reason the A paper or the conforming loans, the conventional FHA, VA, USDA, these programs exist because that's the cheapest, best way to get in the game when you're buying a house, especially as a first-time home buyer.
Yeah, so imagine, okay, if you have an income, right, a good income, say 60, 70,000 annually. You do have good credit, pretty decent credit, but you don't have the down payment for the down payment and closing costs, the money in the bank for down payment and closing costs. You can call Robert up and ask him, hey, Robert, I have these in line, but what can I do? Is there a program that I can use for the down payment and closing costs? And there might be something available at that time. Or if you don't have much credit and your credit's kind of lower, not knowing what you can qualify for, you can call Robert up. He can talk to you. You know what? This is your credit's at 580. You can still qualify, but for this much. So you're not going to know until you call a professional again, guys.
And I'm hearing on the news too, well, the average worker can't afford it anymore. We're seeing it. It's harder. It's like, yeah, he's talking 60, 70. Okay, that puts us in the 300 with rates right now, 300 range. Let's say anywhere from 3 under 400. Okay, well, that's the most competitive market price point with the least amount of inventory that we have, especially in Southern California.
But what's the medium price home, for the price of the medium home? What's the price on a medium home right now?
Up here, I think it was 400 and something.
Like 415 or something like that.
Even in the high desert, exactly. It's
for an average home.
Yeah. So, we talk about affordability. It's not going to get any easier. We have the sayings: get while you can, get while the getting's good, because waiting. If you have the desire to own a home, waiting is not going to make it happen. You got to look at those qualifying factors. Hey, I only qualify for 250. Well, who cares? Until something improves, there's a deal that's going to pop.
Yep. So again, if you only qualify for 250, guess what? That means you have to save more to make the difference.
Or to get a higher price.
Yeah. If to qualify for a house that costs 400,000.
What was that deal you got on that 2-unit? What was it listed for, and what did you get? This is a perfect example when the market wasn't even hotter.
When I talked to the owner, he's like, so it's worth about 320. He looked that up on Realtor.com, right? The average price for that type of property in the area, 320. I told him, okay, let me get back to you. I went and checked out the property, and I offered him 128,000. He laughed at me. He's like, you know what? I thought you were going to offer me 120,000. So I could have actually got it for $8,000 less. But you know what? It's still, perfect example, right? But that property is worth a lot more because I was able to renovate it and get it up to rental condition, and wow, it's an amazing property.
But talking to the owner, I mean, even if you hadn't advanced to where you were to make that move, you would have still been able to work a deal for that with that guy.
Yeah, so I was actually able to buy this cash. Now it's a lot different when you're trying to finance mortgage, right? Finance property.
But that's when you talk to the owner, that's when you can get creative. Okay, what's wrong with it? All right, well, I'll fix what's ever wrong on the appraisal if you're cool with it. Boom.
Yes,
you could have got a house, and then you instantly have an investment that really, with a little blood, sweat, and tears, maybe not the blood, but a little sweat and tears, you can, you're coming up overnight.
Absolutely.
So the deals are out there, whether you qualify for 250 and you know your options and you have the right person on the financing side that could say, all right, whether it's 250, 350, 420, you have somebody soon like Raymond who's going to be by next month who's going to say, all right, we'll put your criteria out. We're out and about. We're in the industry. There's going to be a deal where the owners, I'm going to run across somebody and there's just always a deal. Like even when you were in the heat of it, you always would pass on a deal you couldn't do, because you were already in a deal
Yeah.
or two.
Yeah, but a lot of the times we made it happen. You remember?
Yeah,
Several deals, several transactions going on at the same time.
yeah, there's real life and real people, and trust me, you're gonna want to, when you're out and about, if you see an owner out there, stop and say hi. Hey, I'm looking. Get that connection with them, because